Okay, if I can see your face right now, you're on video. All right, so thank you all for taking time this morning to just kind of be here, and this is really a kind of some kindling for the fire of building outdoor communities. The acceleration cohort has been very busy since our launch in September, and I wanted to I'll start off by just providing an overview of that, and then we'll hear from Christy from Yancey to learn about their best practice that they just completed in November that Phil from the COG, the Council of Government, helped to facilitate. And I sent out a lot of resources, and I try to keep the emails. I always think the emails will be short, and then they are not short, and I apologize, but it's just kind of the nature of the information sharing. And I wanted to this will be kind of an opportunity for us to digest what I've sent. I want to pinpoint you to certain resources that will really help to guide you as you start to plan for 2023. And as we get into holidays, maybe you have a little bit more flexibility and to review some of these documents. I know that everything that we're doing is extra on top of your full-time job. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I appreciate you taking the time and the energy. I mean, this work can really only move forward if we do it together. And I hope that our team is providing some sort of an accountability partner to keep the ball moving, keep the fire going. So with that being said, let's dive in a little bit. So I want to just first start off by saying, well, let me introduce myself if I haven't met you. My name is Bradley Spiegel, and I'm the Building Outdoor Communities Program Manager. Wow, I have learned, just a preview, I went to each acceleration county, their first meeting of their cohort, and I've learned so much. And just from that, and then Amy and I have really spent some time going through all the materials, the applications, and just starting to review the plans. And I've learned so much about the whole region. So it's really cool to just be building a regional snapshot of the need and the interest and the projects that are happening. There's so many opportunities for us to connect the dots across Western North Carolina. So I hope in 2023, we can really start to be having some conversations across county boundaries as well about opportunities for outdoor infrastructure and outdoor economy development. So in the last month, Transylvania and Jackson have joined the program, and they will be in the planning cohort, which starts in March, either the end of March or early April. We're going to be building out the schedule in the next couple of weeks of all of 2023. So I will be in touch as soon as that schedule is built out. And Henderson, Madison, and Ash, those are the remaining three that haven't officially applied. We are talking to people. We have specific contacts that we're working with to try to onboard them for the, sometime, whether it's planning or for the initiation cohort. So let's move into acceleration cohort highlights. So we are currently in month 3 of their 7-month cohort work period. Each month, I send a worksheet for them to complete with their group. It's almost as if it could be a great meeting facilitation guide, or some groups are choosing to do the work. They divvy up the work, and then they come back together for their group meeting and discuss kind of the final outcomes and complete a survey. Everything that I'm saying right now is kind of a prelude to an orientation that you don't have to remember all of that. We will do an orientation before you start when you start your cohort, we'll review all of that again. But just so you know, there will be some sort of a in-person midpoint check-in while you're in your cohort, whether it's the beginning, whether it's the middle. I will reach out to the groups to figure out what is the best opportunity for us to meet regionally in a place that works kind of in the middle for everyone. So just the acceleration cohort midpoint check-in, we're going to do it at North Cove, which is it's the North Cove Leisure Club disc golf course in Marion, and they've offered us to have access to the meeting room, and we're going to learn about their outdoor business. So again, this is a cool opportunity to kind of blend the outdoor economy work and learn from a business owner, and then we'll have meetings about where every community is at in their process, and figure out from that, is there an opportunity for kind of regional collaboration and connection. So I want to turn it over to Starlee and Jerry. I wanted them to kind of, they're in the process now. Starlee McDowell is the co-lead for Mitchell County's group. She's with the Toe River Valley Watch. And Jerry's with Rutherford County. He's the Rutherford County Outdoors Coalition president and with the COG, Foothills Regional Commission. So Starlee, if you're on the call, you want to give a little advice for people on the call. What should they be doing now, like to prepare for their time and how to make the most out of the BOC process?
Thanks, Brad. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and this has been hang on.
No problem.
Been a great process, and as you know, Mitchell County completed our outdoor recreation plan through the ARC and with Kyle at the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. Commerce, and it was during COVID, so that was very, we did most of it Zoom. But what I would say is start talking to your community, your business community now. The businesses downtown, even if they're not outdoor recreation oriented now, because it'll surprise you who might be interested in adding an outdoor arm to their business or expanding into an outdoor business. That has been something that has surprised us with some of our businesses downtown. They want to hear more about outdoor recreation opportunities and how to share that with their clients and the people that come into their businesses. So even if they're not an outdoor recreation business, they want to know how they can understand more about what we're doing and share that information about where to go hike, where to go walk, where to bike. That's just an important part. So talk to them now, because that might be one of your biggest partners that you weren't expecting. And I'd also invite the county commissioners. I know that everybody's busy, but our county managers were involved. We had a turnover, but both county managers have been involved. And then we presented the plan to the commissioners. But bring your commissioners in first thing, and they may or may not attend every meeting, but they hold the purse strings in the county, and the county manager is under them. So our county commissioners adopted our plan, but I just wish that we had them in on more of the conversation all along. But they're very, very supportive. That will surprise you too, how supportive your county commissioners might be. And also look around your community now and see what people are doing. Where do they walk? Where do they bike? Where do they fish? Where do they swim? It might not be, at an existing park or at an existing access, but that might be something that you can explore. That might be something that you can build on, where people are already enjoying the outdoor recreation somewhere, where maybe it's not an official site. Maybe it's something that could be purchased or built on, but just look around and see where people are playing outdoors right now. And that may be an opportunity. And then invite anyone that you think might be interested to the first meeting. Invite everybody, because the first meeting might be really large, and then you'll have people that grab on to certain aspects of the plan or really get excited about an outdoor activity. And then, your crowd is going to slim down, and in the end, you'll have your champions of who is going to move the ball forward in different outdoor recreation avenues, but you just never know. So you want to start big, throw out a huge net, and then by the time you get through 3 or 4 months of meetings, you'll be down to your core champions. So just cast a big net, and then what we're doing in Mitchell County is hoping to kind of coordinate with our surrounding counties. That's something that we've really been talking about, because we used to be known as the tri-counties. So Avery, Mitchell, Yancey, our community colleges, all 3 counties. There's just a lot of where we're already tied together. So we're going to try to expand on that. And maybe even McDowell is closely tied to us. So look at your, surrounding counties and start those conversations now. That's my advice. If you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Starlee. That was very helpful. Let's move on. We can do questions. We have plenty of time for questions towards the end. So let's move to Jerry. And it's kind of same question for you, Jerry. Advice for communities that are kind of in the earlier phases or in the middle, and what should they be doing now to best prepare for these meetings next year and the cohort work period?
Yeah, I think I'll echo everything that Starlee said as far as advice and some things to focus on. A couple of things I might add. Maybe know who your money people are in the county. If you have foundations or non-government sources of grants, tourism, whatever it is, and get them to the table, because other people will follow, because they like to keep the money people happy. They will show up to your meeting if they know the money people are there. And for us, we have a local health and wellness foundation who has been present at our meetings, as well as our tourism agency is investing heavily in outdoor recreation. And both of those people have been with our core group from the beginning, and that draws the others out who benefit from their money. So follow the money and get them to the table early. Definitely with I like what Starlee said about casting a wide net. The example that Brad sent from Yancey County, look at the list of people that were in that planning session. It's a great list. It's a good, diverse group of organizations and people, and that's exactly what you need. And you won't get them at every meeting. Sometimes you might have to have side conversations with individuals, and a lot of the business owners, they're busy. If you're a small business owner, it's hard to get away for a meeting in the middle of the day. So pick up the phone and call them and get input in between meetings, especially if you have a specific topic that is of interest to them, and get some feedback there. And one thing we did, we had our third meeting yesterday, and we went to Lake Lure for our meeting intentionally, and so move your meetings around the county. Don't make everybody come to the same location. Kind of go to there, and we got different people to turn out for the meeting in Lake Lure, because it's a good 30-40 minute drive from one end of the county to the other. So that's been good for us to get different people involved at different times as well. Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. Last thing, get started, and Starlee mentioned this too, get started now on your inventory. That is the most intense thing that we've had to do so far, is just documenting what you have and what you don't have, really. So it's knowing all of your hiking trails, distance, difficulty, so you can understand the range of opportunities there, or whatever, you know, whatever activity it is, addresses, websites, you know, that inventory, and maybe divide it up as to, you know, who's keeping track of it. You know, maybe have somebody assigned to, you know, document all, you know, list all your hiking trails, and another person can do all your fishing opportunities or whatever it might be. But I would, even if you're in the initiation cohort and you're not starting until September, that inventory can really help you at any point between now and then to understand what you have. So I guess that's what I have.
Thank you, Jerry. I love that idea of moving meetings around. And I mean, this is supposed to be fun, right? Like, this is a fun topic, outdoor recreation. It should be fun planning for the future. And how better than to just show up at Lake Lure and walk on the boardwalk or whatever, you know, just to get people out of their normal day-to-day and thinking creatively. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing
and
that.
I had one more thing I just thought of
Yeah.
too, that came out of our meeting before that, and that's and kind of taken off on our meeting in North Cove, is site tours of the outdoor businesses in particular. So we have a new business in the Bostic area doing ATV tours, and they invited our team out for a day trip to their facility to experience the asset. So we haven't done it yet, but our plan is to maybe do some of those kind of site visits of assets like that, particularly if it's a private business, and see how they do things.
Okay,
So yes, thank you. That's a great idea. I want to go. So maybe we should do a BOC field trip. That sounds awesome, the ATV park. And just so you know, Don Kaysen is also one of the co-leads. He's the Rutherford County TDA director, and we're planning different trainings. They're kind of webinar series for 2023, and we think that their funding model would be really, people have mentioned that in the surveys, that they'd like to learn more about how they are pooling the resources across the county to fund outdoor infrastructure. So we'll put a ... with that. But so let's move. Before we transition to Christy, I want to just show you all quickly refresh your memory of the cohorts, who's in the cohorts. So you can see here, can you see this screen? This is just a reminder of who's in what cohort. And, you know, as we go through the program, we're building the bike as we go, but we're learning so much that it just keeps getting better, it seems. And, you know, documents are made. App State is in the process of creating a survey that each county will have the opportunity to tailor to their own outdoor infrastructure needs, and then ultimately be able to, they're going to create an economic impact tool. So you all will be able to put in the infrastructure that you want to calculate an ROI on, and it will spit out a return on investment. They're going to be able to do this at the county level. So we're building this as we go. And thank you all for your patience as we kind of create something amazing for Western North Carolina. This is kind of a paradigm shift of regional planning. So let's transition to Christy. I'd really love for you to explain the thought process behind bringing all those stakeholders together, how the meeting went, what was Phil's strategy? I know Phil, I just saw him join, so if he wanted to chime in, but how are the outcomes, and how is this going to set you up for success for your BOC work next year?
Well, we came away from the summit feeling like we, first of all, weren't sure what our county should be concentrating on, what our end goal was, what we wanted out of all of this as far as, once we're grant ready, what are we grant ready for? And we as a small working group came up with a few ideas, but we definitely knew that we needed more input from other county stakeholders so that we could get buy-in eventually. If what we see as our priorities aren't the county's priorities, then who really cares? So I pulled together with my team a group of 25 representatives throughout the county. And we did get 17 of those to come to the meeting. So I was pretty pleased with that. I had 2 representatives from county departments, but I did not get my councilman or my commissioners or my county manager there. So I was disappointed about that. But definitely had some really good key stakeholders there. Originally, when I was talking with Jake Blood, who's on my committee, and from NC High Peaks, and our county economic development director, Jamie McMahon, they both thought that it would be great to have a facilitator, and Jamie suggested the COG coming in, and we were super happy to have Phil and Corey Osborne come in and facilitate that. Their role was to help lead the discussion without any prejudice, because we all have our favorites of what we would like to see happen in the county, and so I didn't want to lead them down my path. I felt like we had some really great discussion. I mean, I think you have attached to the agenda the outcomes.
Do you want me to share it?
Show that?
Sure. Give me one second.
What we did is identified barriers, assets, and the needs for the county. And of that came up with a list of a lot of things that need doing, and 6 of those potential priorities are actual infrastructure projects. There are some priorities on that list that are outside of our control. For instance, the Yancey County Parks and Recreation Plan. But generally, we came up with about 6 priorities on that list that are infrastructure that we could work to get grant funding for eventually. And the core working group is going to plan to meet and narrow those priorities down and categorize them, based on feasibility, cost, project length, that kind of thing. So we're also going to be working with the core grant program through the Department of Commerce kind of concurrently as we do this, and hopefully building out our list of county asset mapping while we get started.
Cool.
I mean, that's generally it. Phil, do you have anything to add to this, or Jake? I know I saw Jake there.
I'll just speak up. The county stakeholders in Yancey already had a great handle on their assets and had those mapped. So that was a critical first step for any effort like this that was already underway. So at that meeting, we facilitated, we could jump right in on constraints and opportunities and priorities.
So a couple points. I'm so glad you mentioned CORE. So for those of you that don't, you probably have heard about the Creating Outdoor Recreation Economies program. We are working very closely to ensure alignment between those programs. And ultimately, we've all kind of come to consensus that the support that happens through CORE, and it's okay if you're not in it, but if you are in it, that it'll really just make our work more impactful, because it's just kind of a readiness. Like, it'll help you to get ready for more of a deeper dive into the work that we're doing. If you're not in CORE, that's quite fine, and we will help you get there. We will assess where you're at and get you ready for our program. So, and then I just wanted to also say that if this is interesting to you all on the call, what Christy and Phil are describing, we are working with the councils of government, as you know, so we could help to facilitate a meeting where we do something similar for your working group or your county. So you can just reach out, email me if that's something that you're interested in, whether it's during or before the cohort work period. The other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to ask Christy before we jump to something else. How was the partnership with the Forest Service? Was the Forest Service open to your discussions? And I know Amy and I are going to be meeting with the Forest Service in the beginning of the year to kind of create a strategy for how we can build that partnership going forward.
They are interested more, I feel, on a communication level, so they know what we're doing. I don't see them as helping move our agenda forward at all. But just keeping those lines of communication open seems to be more what we're going to receive from them. And I will say that we've already met. One of those things on that list was trying to move Mount Mitchell State Park forward, the new lands that were acquired. And you know, one of the things that came out of that meeting is that we've met with the Blue Ridge Conservancy already, and have another meeting scheduled with our Mount Mitchell State Park superintendent and the district superintendent over Mount Mitchell State Parks region or district, and Blue Ridge Conservancy, to talk about that and how we can move that forward in the legislation. So that came out of that meeting. It's kind of one of the priorities, but not something that my core working group or this BOC committee can move forward. It's a separate agenda. And so getting those partners together was really important. I don't know that there could be too many partners. I feel like, I mean, I walked away thinking, oh, I should have invited. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh. Thank you, Christy. Yeah, so the land trust component, I think that's incredible too, having the land trust partners at the table early, the Forest Service early, as long as, I think it's better that people know early, right? As opposed to not and finding out and asking why they weren't invited. So, okay, so thank you for all that information. It was very informative. Let's transition. I'm going to share my screen and just kind of walk through these links. Okay, so I want to just kind of, I'm not going to go through each of these. I'm not going to click each of them. I'm going to click one of them. I'm going to give you an overview of these, and then I want to pinpoint you to specific resources to help you in the next several months. So as I mentioned, there's a BOC, we're using a shared drive, Google. Everything should be public. If for whatever reason you can't get access to it, just message me and we will work on it. I know, Starley, we still have to work on that with you. So each county has a folder. I've put your application, and if you filled out a survey, post-launch survey, it's in there. And we are actively, some of them may have highlights because I was highlighting them. So just keep that in mind. They're there, and if anyone in your group wants to see them, you know, you can easily send them this link and they have access to all of the other resources. So the BOC assessment tool guide is what I'm going to walk through. So I'm going to come back to that. You'll see the BOC 7-month schedule. That really is combining the topics of our 7 months, the worksheets, that the qualitative side, and then App State's quantitative side, as you kind of do a basic understanding of economic impact data resources that are available, and they will walk you through on how to distill and analyze that data to create a case for you and your needs. And, you know, again, then they will also be having the tool that's going to be ready for you to use that they're building right now. Again, slide decks, all the slide decks from the launch are on there. I titled these 920. because there's a folder of the decks. Remember when the acceleration cohort went off into a breakout room? These are the slide decks from that breakout. And they're important because these are basically will be the orientation slide decks when you start your cohort. So if you would like to get ahead of the game and review like what are the different possibilities for economic impact analysis, there's some great information there. Then the resources folder, that has, I've put the NC Blueways in there, the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable toolkits in there, the Middle Fork Greenway economic impact analysis is in there. There's a lot of cool resources that if you have a moment, if you want to, there's case studies and there's the toolkits that I will continually add things to that. The Swamp Rabbit Trail in Greenville, economic impact. And I think it's really just to understand what's possible with measuring outdoor recreation infrastructure data. So with that being said, if you want to follow along, you can click the BOC Assessment Tool Guide link. And give me 1 second. Can you all see this? Do you see the tool guide? Christy, do you see it on my screen, my shared screen? Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to briefly go through this so you see how the flow will look like. So each month you're going to have something similar like to this, and this is month 1. So if you, excuse me, if you scroll down, you'll see kind of an overview and purpose. Here is the preview of what each month, the topic of each month will be for the qualitative assessment. So month 1 is all about getting organized. And if we could start to, get organized now, that's fine. And I will be in touch, as our 2023 schedule is built out to figure out how we can kind of get a jump start on getting organized before we actually begin our assessment of assets. So you'll see this is really an overview of Andy Williamson's presentation from the workshop in a written form. You'll see the core elements of the outdoor economic ecosystem model. The graphic is here, and that's kind of, thinking a systems approach to outdoor recreation and how it all is like this graphic that Shane and Joanna created, the spoke of a bike, like how it's all interconnected, thinking about the capacity, the policy, the data, the planning, the funding as almost a foundational layer that intertwines with the economy, infrastructure, tourism, brand, workforce, activation, etc. So we will be really thinking holistically about the outdoor economic ecosystem. If you want definitions, they're here. And then if you scroll all the way down, you'll see this is, I think, one of the most helpful tools that you all could be thinking about as you're building, especially if you're trying to organize the group. This is just some general instructions on, how to facilitate a meeting and who should be there and, how to delegate roles when you're at that meeting. Project management of your communications platform. I put a link to our Google Drive in there. And then let's see. So, in your orientation, we'll review all this again, but basically each month you'll have a survey with like around 10 questions that will summarize the work that you did with your group. And then we will, in the end, that's what I will be analyzing when I'm thinking about the gap analysis. How can we start to move the needle with recommendations and implementation next steps. Lastly, this is, I think, some of the most important, the most fun part that you all will have access to for free. This virtual workshop, this is when I first started this job over almost a year ago, which is the fastest year of my life. I watched this whole virtual 2020 Building Outdoor Communities workshop. The password's here. There is some incredible speakers from across the country. including Andy, Amy, and Noah that were facilitating. And I learned so much about the outdoor recreation space and just best practices, case studies. So I highly recommend, if you want to just peruse through it, the link is here, the password's there, you all have free access to it. The other thing that I want to point out is, if you haven't seen it already, is the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable Rural Economic Development Toolkit. And that is something that, again, we're kind of like, it's like a big, like, what is the work? They have like, I think 12 to 15 best practices that we all could be thinking about as how to advance this work in our communities and the region as a whole. But if you want to familiarize yourself with that, it could be a really cool talking point if you're facilitating a meeting and you want, or if you're trying to get county commissioners or elected leaders on board to advance the work. So that is really the gist of what I wanted to talk about today. And I wanted to unshare my screen. There we go. And open it up for questions. And if you need to leave, that's totally fine. If you want to chat, we can stay on the call. I'll stay on until 11:30 if you want, but like, let's feedback, questions, thoughts.
Bradley, I had a question. It's Rachel.
Hey, Rachel,
So I know you had mentioned like a while back that.
can you say who you're with, Rachel?
Oh yeah, with Western Piedmont Council of Governments.
Thanks.
You had mentioned a while back that you had hoped that us in Planning and Initiation would do some goal setting with our group and get those conversations started. And I was wondering, is there something you want us to focus on specifically with that goal setting? Is there somewhere in that resource packet you'd like, I know that's just like a lot of information dumping that you want to point us to. I think at least for the counties I'm working with, we're taking those steps forward to do some goal setting. And as some of the people on this call might want some guidance to lead their group as well in one direction and kind of narrow the scope so that the goal setting is productive.
Yeah. Well, I think the links, if you're the one organizing the meeting, it would be helpful for you to kind of understand the roadmap of what the 7 months will look like. So if you just familiarize yourself with the BOC 7-month schedule to understand what App State is going to be expecting and what we're going to be expecting, I think that's like the first place to just start, is just understanding the expectations and then using that worksheet that I just described, the month 1 getting organized worksheet. I think those are the perfect goals. I mean, the goal could be, who are the right people that should be at our first meeting, you know? And again, like, this is an iterative process. Like this, it doesn't have to be perfect for your first meeting, but ideally, you know, the more people there in the beginning, the better. You can continually grow it. You can continually invite more people. But yeah, I think that the worksheet, the schedule, as you saw that in that schedule, App State is going to be, they've created videos, like short videos on each topic that they're going to cover. And yeah, so I think if we wanted to have smaller groups of strategy sessions, we are totally open to do that. Amy and I are also thinking about, like, in 2020, as we're building out the 2023 schedule, we would like to kind of come in person and maybe do regional, like we would find a regional hub somewhere and invite people in the communities, or invite the leads at least, to come together, and we can do strategy and goal setting together. I love when Jerry said the field trips idea, because I've been having just really cool calls with people that have reached out to our program. And I had a call with the Folk Art School, John C. Campbell Folk Art School. And they are so interested. They have 300 acres of outdoor recreation space. And I was like, let's host a meeting there. So if you have ideas of where we could bring people together, fun, inspiring places that will get people thinking creatively, I think that'll be really helpful, especially when we're connecting other sectors into the work. Next question.
Brad, I had one kind of follow-up thought that I want to
Yeah.
say before I forget, but there is a slight precaution in having very large meetings that both Wilkes County and McDowell County expressed. Both those are also acceleration counties. And they said that they experienced, a lack of focus at certain times when they had too large of a meeting or too many different parties there to where they couldn't get the work done. There's specific tasks that they're asked, you're asked to complete. And so you do have to focus on, the questions and making sure you get the details documented as to what's going on in your community. So there was a little precaution from both those counties about having very large meetings.
Good
Bradley,
advice. Yes.
it's
Hey, Joe.
Joe Furman in Watauga County. So our team met recently and came up with just a couple of questions we're curious about. In the application, we are asked to provide copies, if they exist, of Destination Management Plan, Resiliency Plan, DE&I Plan. Are those things that are going to be recommended or required by the program? And if so, are there samples or assistance to develop them?
So great question. The plans are not going to be required at all. It was more of, we don't want to recreate the wheel. And, what I'm most excited about is to, especially the plans that are the ones that you all are excited about, we want to be building off of those recommendations. So I know, Joe, when we were reviewing your application, you talked about, especially the ones that are in the works, right? The Imagine Watauga and Stake Your Claim. Imagine Watauga is it outdoor recreation focused, or is it?
Yes.
And then Stake Your Claim was kind of blending the art sector and outdoor economy together. So I think any plans, we will, if I like could only do this for one county, I could spend my whole day like reviewing every plan. But like, I want to be told by you all, what plans should we be building off of? And I will be, anything that you already submitted, I would like to be gleaning the recommendations that were advised. And, that's our jumping point, right? I want to be looking at all the recommendations in the plans, and strategizing about, how can we move forward? Because if you don't have a specific outdoor recreation economic development plan, I want to look at those other plans to see how we can kind of put the recommendations from all your existing plans together to move the needle for our work.
Yeah.
So we will not require plans that you don't have. But
Okay.
what I could do, like what I'm going to do anyway, is definitely be providing like best practices in equitable development, in resilience planning. That's something we will definitely do.
Okay, that's good. The next question was, we intend to expand our team. Right now, we're mostly agency folks, to include people who are actually working in the outdoor economy. Our question is, should we try and do it now, not really knowing what the program's entirely about, or wait until we get into the cohort and then expand the team? Is there any advice on that?
Yes, I think it could go both ways, really. If you ever wanted us or the COG liaison to come to a meeting to speak on why are we doing this, kind of the overview, we could do that. I would say, you will have more support from our team and the App State team when you're directly working in the 7-month cohorts. So we will be kind of readily available, as you could say. If you wanted to do something when you're not in the cohort and invite people, I mean, as long as you feel confident as the group leader to kind of be the messenger, I'd say absolutely. Why not do it early, you know, so they're ready to participate? Yeah, especially if there's stakeholders that you think should be at the table for the 7 months, I would not hesitate to you know, bring them up to speed. And if you felt like you needed talking points, just email me and I can give you some good talking points.
And I'm going to jump in and just add to that, you know, Joe, I think that even if it's not a formal meeting, but letting some of those business owners know, and it could just be like a quick email to let them know that you're embarking on this process. And I think some folks will kind of rise to the top through that process. You know, it'll fall on a lot of deaf ears, you know, in some cases, at least starting out without a ton of information, but there might be some folks who right away get excited about it and let you know that they want to engage, you know, on a deeper level, and that kind of helps form that group a little bit. But having that business community and having, you know, that voice, especially when we talk about commissioners and some of those meetings, that business voice is going to be really important, I think, to move some of these projects forward.
Looking ahead, this is Leslie in Elkin with the Surrey cohort. Looking ahead to March, because we have been meeting in our smaller group and we're looking to shoulder tap those additional stakeholders. Will we get a date when you all will be there to support us that we can start putting out as a save the date kind of message to those stakeholders?
Yes.
Unfortunately, March is going to come quick.
I know. Yes. And I think, again, we're building the schedule now. I want to say it would be later. It's not going to be early March. It would be because we're trying to balance finishing the acceleration cohort with starting the next one. So I don't want to jump to say dates yet. We kind of need to make sure the acceleration cohort finishes strong. And again, I do think, I think with month 1, you saw is all about getting organized. That could be something that I give direction on in advance. And then maybe we come, what I did for acceleration, we did in person. I came in person for their infrastructure meeting, and that seemed to work really well. So, but we will think about having an orientation for the planning cohort towards the end of March, early April, where we will all come together. But if you would rather do that virtually, we'll do something in person. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first. I'm open to suggestions from you all if you'd rather have more of the midpoint be in person and the orientation be virtual. And we would choose a location. I'll look at all the counties and we'll try to choose something central, so it's not too much of travel for anyone, whether it's in the beginning or in the middle or in the end.
Right, as acceleration cohort participant, I'm excited about our midpoint in-person meeting. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot out of that, because if we had an in-person to be at the start, we would all be being a little bit less clear as to what's expected and what can come of this. And so I would advocate for a midpoint in person, because of the resource sharing and idea sharing will be more robust.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, so Acceleration had their orientation at the launch event in their breakout room. So yeah, it was in person, but we were still, everything was very fresh. And now, you know, we're getting the ball rolling. The program is becoming a kind of an alive, a living thing, right? So, but I'm kind of going back to what Amy and I have been chatting about, and maybe we could do smaller kind of regional in-person check-ins in the beginning, just to kind of make sure everyone's starting and rolling with it. And then we plan something with the larger group in the middle. But we're going to discuss all of this. And if you have feedback, just let me know. I mean, Leslie, do you think like 2 months in advance is enough time?
Yeah, I think that that's probably a minimum.
Okay.
And just hearing the feedback from Jerry and again, the Surrey group, I'm sure we'll reconvene or touch base after this, but I'm almost hearing that what we could do is we plan in-house when this kind of Surrey launch date is and where it is and what that looks like, you know, kind of the social aspect of it, to encourage all the people that we want to shoulder tap, those stakeholders, to attend for the first time. You all are there virtually to explain this kind of because as much as we've been our smaller group working on it, I think, again, we kind of need those more formal talking points when we have to
Right.
re-energize the new stakeholders. I mean, we understand it. We've been kind of thinking about it now since the original launch in Boone. But yes, I think 2 months lead time. And I think what we might be looking at is setting that date and inviting you all virtually. Like Jerry said, maybe in that midpoint when we're really into the meat of what we need to be doing, you all are there to help us do that. And two, just to ramble on a little bit, what Surrey has been doing is collecting all of our strategies that we have. It was a good reminder today. I need to get with Jessica. We have a great kind of asset inventory spreadsheet that we build our visitor guide off of, but we need to send that out to all of our areas to start proofing it, updating it. So we've been doing a lot of that background work. And just a quick logistic question, should we be putting all those strategies, instead of putting them in our own Dropbox, we need to put those all in the Google Drive that you all have created?
So I really don't want to make this harder for you all. So what McDowell County did, just throwing it out there, is Kim made a Google Drive for, like, she did that what you just said, but like made their own Google Drive. And what I did is I just put a shortcut to it in the McDowell County folder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
I would really love, like, if there are, I know you, whether you put them in the application or not, if there are specific plans you definitely want us to be looking at, I would definitely try to organize them in some sort of a fashion. You could share the link with me. I don't care how you do it, you know, as long as we can have access to it. And, you know, to your point, Leslie, like, there will definitely be a coordinated launch of the planning cohort. We will all do it together, whether it's virtual or in person is the question that we'll answer. And there was another point to that I was going to make. It's exciting to talk about this. Oh, I wanted to say, so my colleague Joanna is on the call, and as we all know, Year of the Trail 2023, there's going to be so many opportunities for collaboration and like really rallying the troops. People are going to come out for these events. So how can we would love to show up for strategic collaborative events with Year of the Trail too. And maybe we could try to coordinate some of these, whether it's the midpoint or the launch around a Year of the Trail event in one of your communities. So that's just throwing it out there. Like, there's just going to be a lot of really amazing opportunity for collaboration next year.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Brad, of like, as people are planning events, as they're planning meetings, anything you're planning in your communities that you would like for us to know about or be a part of. I mean, we want to be there for every step of the way, but have to kind of balance it out. But invite us if you want us to be there, or let us know. And if we can, we'll make it happen. And especially with the events, we can share it through our social media and through other ways. But don't hesitate to just, send emails our way and let us know what's going on in your community. And we will, be able to engage with as much of those events as we can.
To echo what Amy said, there's no too much information. in this process, back and forth. Brad says that, his emails end up long because of just the sheer amount of information sharing that he does to you. Bring that right back to us, share what's going on in your communities. We want to be excited about it. And also, we're going to be really thinking about the overarching narrative of the story of this Building Outdoor Communities programming. So anything that helps us feed into those stories and build those stories later on to share the outcomes of building outdoor communities is good information for us to have.
Because we'll need to be, when we're getting more money, attracting more money for this, the next phase, we're going to need to share the story. Anyone else?
All right, I think I've got one more question.
Sure.
For a planning cohort, so are we in any stage where we need to be reaching out to the COG for a facilitator? Or we wait
so
for that?
Do you know Jesse Day?
Yes.
So he is our liaison for the Piedmont Triad.
And that was the other question. Yeah. Do we go through the Piedmont or?
Yep, Piedmont Triad. He is really engaged and excited about everything, and especially because Piedmont Triad released their incredible outdoor recreation platform, Piedmont Triad Outdoors. So if the COGs have done work in this space, I know Western Piedmont has their NC Foothills experience. We really want to be building off of that as well too. So yeah, I would say, Leslie, if you think something like what Christy was describing and Phil would be helpful, Jesse could be a great facilitator of that discussion.
Thank you.
And if you need me to connect, if that's something you want to do, just email me and I can set it up.
Yeah,
with
we
Jesse.
work with Jesse quite a bit, so
Okay.
we're more than comfortable reaching out to him.
Perfect.
It's just more about the timing. So I'll probably, again, between our smaller group that's working right now, look at a date where maybe he can come in the preliminary to hear what
Perfect.
we've already done.
Right.
Again, given so much guidance and support from you guys.
And my goal, just for planning purposes, I would like, by the end of the year, hopefully with the holidays, I'm going to take this feedback, and I have a lot of time really to be thinking about the schedule for 2023 in the next 2 weeks. So I would like to, hopefully by the end of this year, the first week of January, be sending out kind of what the dates look like. And so that hopefully that would help you all for your planning purposes. Any other questions?
I have a question, Brad.
Hey, Andy.
How are you? Well, my voice. I'm wondering, why are we doing this by county? Because in Boone, you mentioned several times that outdoor recreation isn't defined by jurisdictional boundaries yet. Here we are, all insular in a way, doing our own thing. Is there a reason for that, as opposed to why like Jackson, Macon, Haywood, and Swain aren't working on a regional community-based thing?
I think the reasoning is really the data piece, and it's the county data is really the reason. That's the whole reason. App State's doing it based on, they're doing their economic analysis based on county level data. It does not mean that what we talked about in the acceleration cohort orientation in Boone in our breakout was like, we could easily accumulate, we could add, if we wanted to focus on a regional priority, we could add up, right? If you have 3 counties that are working together, we can add up the economic impact of this regional trail in each of your counties, and then we can be having that data together. But yeah, the initial program design was at the county level. It does not mean that we can't be innovative and do regional initiatives. Like we can still advance regional priorities and focus at the county, if that makes sense. And as we debut the kind of matching grant program next year, I think we'll be getting into more discussions about, how can counties work together.
Yeah, and I'll add, I feel like we're kind of starting at the county level, but Starley gave a great example earlier about how they're
Yes.
already recognizing the need and importance of working as kind of a tri-county area. And we're going to have so much data at the end of this for the region. So we're having, each county collect the data. That's what you've got kind of in your back pocket, but we're going to have all this data for the region built up. But Brad mentioned that we're going through all the applications and all the surveys, and we are making those connections between the counties so we can bring them to you all and kind of remind you what's happening at your county next door. And it doesn't even have to be one that's connected to you geographically, making connections that are happening across the region of what the way folks can work together to really benefit the whole region. So that's a great question, Andy. And I know it does seem like that because that's the immediate work that's happening is in your county, but we are trying to keep this very regional approach to it.
Especially with, the Great Trails State Plan, right? There's these incredible state trails too that are coming through, like the Over Mountain Victory Trail. Starley and I were learning a lot about that the other day. And I mean, it's touching probably, I don't know the exact number, but it's probably touching 10 or, 5 to 10 Western North Carolina communities. So, when we come together in person, I think it's important to kind of touch on, like, how can we still want to be, the data might be at the county level, but we still want to be advancing the regional priorities and at least building the partnerships and relationships to make it easier to implement. Does that help? Any other questions?
Bradley, this is Lisa Bottomley in Allegheny. I just want to say how helpful this has been. We are just in the initiation part. And we had a great meeting yesterday with Wilkes County. They were willing to sit with us and kind of walk us through some things.
Awesome.
And this, at the beginning of this meeting where you all kind of gave us, these are things that you need to be thinking about now. Huge help for us. I mean, we've got a kind of a small core group together, we're talking about it. And we were able to get our town and county both on the call last night, which was a big win for us, just to get the conversation started. So I just want to thank everyone for giving us these ideas and kind of a plan. I really do appreciate it. It helps more than you know.
Cool. Thank you, Lisa. Would you be willing to share some of the feedback that, did you meet with Heather and Jen from Wilkes or?
We met with Leanne,
Okay.
of the economic development and their planning manager for the town, and oh my gosh, their tourism development authority, Thomas, Sally.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was a great group, and they just kind of all, they talked to us about how it tied in, how they got started, how they formed their group, and they've been working on this for a pretty good amount of time. And so they're in a different place, but I think it really helped us. They talked about how their group is led by the Health Foundation, that it's a non-political group.
Right.
That sometimes it's a good idea to keep the politics out of it. So they talked about that, about funding. We had a good hour, a little over an hour conversation, and it just kind of really helped us get our feet planted and kind of how to move forward. So we really appreciate that a lot. It was kind of like today's call, just walking through what best practices were, who they talked to, who they got on board. And their biggest thing though was having that non-political lead.
Mm-hmm.
But Leanne did say that if we don't have someone like that in Allegheny, then economic development would be the kind of the obvious choice to lead this moving forward.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm glad that this has been beneficial. I think this kind of just arose organically throughout in October, I think. Amy and I had 3 conversations with different people from across Western North Carolina answering the same questions. And I was like, this is a sign. I think we need to bring people together and just make sure that everyone is understanding of kind of what to do next, right? And I hope we can do more of this, and hopefully it will be in person, some of them. But yeah, it could be a lot. And if we take it step by step, we can work, we're in this together. And as I said in the beginning, we're your accountability partner. You're kindling on the fire, right? But Lisa, to your point, I had a really good call with Lauren. She's on Lauren Wood with Mountain Wise. They're thinking about, there are some Southwestern communities that would like to use Health Foundation funds to kind of spark the same sort of leadership in the outdoor economy space. So I was thinking that maybe a good training for next year could be to have Heather or Jen from the Health Foundation explain, how did they go about that process of using public health funds for outdoor, quality of life and outdoor economy work.
Yeah, that's great. And they did really hone in on that, the quality of life piece. That seems to be a very critical part of what they are doing and how they've been able to move forward. So yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, if that is it, we're going to wrap it up. And sorry, there was a flea in this, like a fruit fly that's been in my office for 3 days and I can't get it. I really appreciate everyone's attention, and I'm excited for 2023. It's going to be an amazing year for outdoor infrastructure development in Western North Carolina. And I'm really grateful to be in this work with all of you, moving it forward. So I will be in touch with, with when I have dates in the next couple of weeks, okay? Yeah, happy holidays, happy New Year.
Great to see everyone.
Let's see, stop recording. Right, Joanne?